Okay, bag number 12, page 12. We're gonna build us a rotor head here. Oh my god, it's so small. I can't believe how small these parts are. I mean, that's a spindle. I know folks that fly smaller helicopters, they're like, oh, that looks like a normal size spindle. And sure, it does for a 420, but I'm used to 580s and 600s and 700s, and this stuff does look small to me. Like, yeah. But let's get this together and see how this all fits. So this does have it does look like it's a screw hole in here, but it's not a 1.5. I wonder what it is. If it tells you what it is. I don't think it tells you here, but I think it's a 1.3 or a 1 millimeter. No, not a 1.3. No. Is it a hole? Maybe it's not a hole. Maybe it's a hole, but not a hex. Oh no. 1.9? I mean, sorry, 0.9? Seems to fit perfectly in there. Yeah. So, I should be able to screw this in to one of these sides here. And I can. So they don't include this in the smaller kits. But on the bigger kits, they give you this thing. It's originally meant for the nylon nuts that they use to mount the boom on for the detachable boom system. But on the other end had a ball link tool. So you can take two of these and you can just kind of quickly do this. I'll grab another one. And you know, with that added sound effect, quickly tie these things together. Let's see here. 44 millimeters. I don't have a digital caliper out. So these I don't really care. I'm gonna guesstimate these. When it comes down to it, you're gonna put these on the helicopter, and when you set up your swash and your main pitch links, you'll then basically set up the what you call it. You'll set up these links to be to give you that zero pitch at mid-stick kind of deal. So right now it's not super important that they're exactly 44 or approximately 44 millimeters. It's more important that they're just together and the threads have been built properly. Okay. I'll get them approximately about the same. Okay, I'm gonna put these following arms together. Okay, be careful, there's a lot of little pieces here. Okay, so we're gonna have a radial bearing or a flange bearing on each one of these. Okay, and there is gonna be on the bigger one, it's a thinner side and a bigger side. The bigger side has a bushing that goes inside, so this does also call for green Loctite. Grab the green and then show you how I do the green Loctite on these. I actually add a little dab of green on the housing itself. So on the housing itself, I just put a little dab like that. So I don't know if you can see that. See a little shiny bit there? That's green Loctite. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And then what I do is once I have those two in place, I take one bearing, kind of slide it into that bearing, into the green Loctite, and then I kind of spin the bearing, the outer race of the bearing, to try to get that Loctite to kind of rotate around there. So again, don't forget your bushing. Drop that in there. And then I'm gonna pick the other bearing, and you see green Loctite's on top there. I want to kind of scoop in and grab that, and then I'm gonna rotate it. See if I can get that green Loctite to kind of go around that race, that outer race part. And then I'm just gonna let that sit. And I'll do the same thing to the other side. Dab. Also, what helps is like right now it's kind of cold in the garage, so this is kind of jelly. Like you can see that the viscosity is kind of like a gel-like consistent and not liquid. So it's a little bit cold. So I don't know if you can put it in a fridge perhaps, or just like put it outside when it's cold. But it definitely helps when it's cold. It makes it less liquidy. Slot that bearing in and then try to rotate it. This one was pretty tight fit, so it should be good. I'm gonna drop the spacer in. Make sure the spacer is pointing straight up and down so you can get a screw through it. And then we'll take another bearing and we'll kind of slot it in. This one was a little bit looser. That's okay because the green Loctite will seal it in. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the other one and I'm gonna do a little dab of green Loctite on that side and as well as this side. 2 bearings. 1. And like I said, since I have the green Loctite on that side, I don't want to get on inner race. I go towards the bearing like this and slop it in and then rotate. Okay. And that should be good for that one. What we'll do next is we'll grab a bolt, a little M2 by 10, and we're gonna go through. So the fat side sticks out. We're gonna go through here. We're gonna use a washer, tiny little washer. Be careful not to drop it. Okay, get it on there. Okay, and now this is going into plastic, so we don't need any Loctite. So we're just gonna screw this in. Try to keep it nice and straight. Okay, snug it down. Should still feel freely move. Okay. Don't snug them too tight so that you're preloading the bearings. You just want them, snug them down so they hold. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing with this grip, or not grip, but the radius arm assembly. So there's like Loctite on the tip of this thing, so I'm just gonna kind of like scrape it on there. Okay, you don't need a lot, just a little. Okay, so we're gonna slide that bearing into place. Rotate. Same thing with the other bearing. Slide it into place and rotate. All right, and then again, taking consideration of the fat side sticking out, I'm gonna take the bolt, screw it through. Take your 1.5 mil driver, get it ready. You can also take the washer, and if you just take your finger and press on the washer, it should stick to your finger. And then just get the washer into the hole and push it down. And remember, no Loctite on this one since it's going into plastic. We just screw it in and let the screw bite. Basically, keep it in. It gets tighter, so I think it's like a tape. It's the way it's drilled out. It's nice. It gets tight. So you want to get it tight, but not like too tight where this bearing is under preload. Yep, no lateral play, but smooth. Okay. Now we're gonna build up the head block. So we got our 2 main grip arms, main grip, not arms, but the main grip links, and our radius arms or following arms. So be mindful, the dampeners has a thicker side and a smaller side when it comes to this little lip here. See that lip? There's a thinner, smaller side, and then this is a much thicker lip. It protrudes out much more. That side is the side that takes the O-ring. It's the thicker side. So you want the thinner side facing outside of the spindle. So in turn, this will go in like this. All right, same thing on the other side. Should add a little bit of grease on here. So I'm gonna do that, but for me to add grease, I'm gonna just put a little grease on the spindle here. You should have a paper towel nearby. Wipe things down. insert the spindle here. O-ring. And then your dampener, and make sure you have the dampener facing the right side. Okay. The thicker side is facing inwards. And that all squeezes together. We'll do the same thing on the other side here. O-ring. Dampener with the thicker side, just this side facing inwards. Okay, so you can see there, the thicker side is inwards. I'm gonna slide these together, and since it's so small, you can just do it by hand. The bigger ones, the 700s, I noticed the dampening is so tight that I have to use the table and press down. So, okay. Let me just get that little bit of extra grease off the spindle. I'm gonna put more grease on it, but I'm gonna grease the bearings and then let that grease the rest of it. So, okay, I'm gonna move on to the next page, which is 13, which will include the grips, the main grips, and your bearing stack. So let's switch over here. Okay, back 13. Okay, got your two washers there that go with the bearing stack. These things are always a pain. They're so greasy from the oil. Let me go get a scissor and just cut them open. How many of you folks recognize that name? It's supposed to be Megatech. They used to make helicopters, like kind of like scale-ish looking helicopters. At least I have one of the scale looking birds. So let's see, these are 2.5 inch, 2.5 millimeter, not inch. Driver, put that ready. I'll use this 2 millimeter as my bearing stack. So, just like every other helicopter build, you have your thrust bearings, and your thrust bearings have a smaller and bigger diameter race. You want to figure that out first ahead of time. So this is the smaller race, or the inner diameter that has the smaller inner diameter, and this one has the bigger inner diameter because it rocks more. So we're going to take the smaller one, stack it on the tool, the driver. Then we're going to take the bearing, your rollers, your actual ball bearings, put that on here. Close our line. And then we're going to grease the bearing stack. So all those little pockets there between the ball bearings, you want to grease. And then you want to sandwich the other bearing, other race, and then use the spacer and then stick it all into the bearing stack. Okay. So let's get this driver, and I'm just going to get some grease on the tip. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this pocket up with this grease. Kind of lightly scraping it all over the ball as well as the pockets. Try to pack some grease in there. Once this is together, I don't often take this apart unless there's an issue or a crash. So, you know, I build them with the expectation of never taking it apart. So I try to pack as much grease in there. A lot of this grease does shoot out eventually from the rotation of the helicopter itself, the blades. All right, so now that I got grease in there, I'm gonna take the top race and make sure you put it on the right way, right? That the track, the part that has the race, is going into the bearing. I'm gonna just kind of give the bearing itself a little wipe down on the outside, just kind of get some of that squeeze out, and then put the washer here on. Now we have our bearing stack. Take this bearing stack and the main grip and mate them together, and then kind of tap it down. Okay, so now it came off the driver, and now it's all in there. What I'm gonna do is I'm still gonna keep that driver in there and use the driver to insert. But before I do that, let let me see here. We recommend assembling without shims and add the shims later. So what I'm going to do is, before I put the bearing in there though, I do also want to clean out the threads inside here. You want to clean out both ends of this so that the Loctite can do its thing. So I'll take another driver here and I'm going to get some alcohol. You can use Q-tips if you have Q-tips. I don't, so I'm kind of making my own Q-tip with alcohol and a little tool here, the paper towel. Kind of wrap it around there and insert the tip and turn clockwise, so that way you're like pushing, screwing in the paper towel to get as much of the threads inside as possible, and then pull it out. And you can see that it's gonna get some gunk out. You can do it a couple times if you like. Usually once is all I do, but I'll take another section of this and go back in, okay, and then pop it out, and I'm kind of happy with that. It's still coming out dirty, but not too dirty. Maybe do it one more time. And then you gotta do this on the other side as well, okay? Make sure you do both sides. Okay, I'm gonna flip it the other way. Grab another clean piece. Let me get some new alcohol. More alcohol in there. Okay, wrap this side. Another clean side. All right, put that aside. Get my main grip assembly. Okay, I'm just gonna snake that through and just kind of let everything fall into place. I will push the spindle out further on one side, just so that I can make sure grip is on, and that it's hard to see, that race is on top of the spindle. Okay, and then I'm gonna take this and clean out the threads with the alcohol rag that I have. Get that gunk off. I'm gonna use blue Loctite for this. Some folks may use red, but when I use blue on this, I am very liberal with this, and then I give it a nice wipe down to kind of make sure that the threads have good Loctite on it. Okay, so I'll put a lot, I'll roll it with my fingers, get that Loctite all spread out through the threads, get that excess off, and now the whole thing is coated with Loctite. Okay. Screw it in here. Okay. Just hand tighten on one side. We'll get the other bearing stack loaded, and then we'll tighten these two down on both sides. Okay. So I'm gonna pre-clean this bolt since I have it on here. Just get the bearing stack ready. So again, we need to find the outer and inner, the inner races, the bigger inner race. This is tight, so that's the outside, which means this is the loose one, which is hard to do with these gloves, but yes. So the bearing stack is the tight one, the bearing itself, some lube. I want to make sure I get enough in there. Put it in the main grip. Okay, make sure we have our bearing stack with the washer, main grip. Drop it in. Okay. Okay, remember, no shim initially. So we're gonna stick this in. Stick that down. Take this out. I'm gonna push it into the grip like this. This will ensure that the bearing stack doesn't come out while I'm trying to get Loctite on this thing and get this going here. So I can actually put this down. Get the Loctite. We'll now get this installed. Okay. Okay, once that's high and tight, you want to get another 2.5. Oh, yeah, okay, we got it. All right. So there's the head assembly. We're gonna get now the grips on there as well as the following arms and the links. So we have this is the grip arms. So anytime I go metal into plastic, I put a little drop of CA. So just in case if I got any CA squeeze out, which I did, you can see there's a little bit. So now we have 2.5 mil or 2 millimeter screws, and we're gonna blue Loctite those in. Okay. Okay, tighten them down, but make sure you don't over tighten them. These are plastic. You can easily crack them. So, just, you know, tighten them down, let the Loctite do its thing. You know, okay. These are on the head. I'm gonna now put these following arms. I'm gonna take these little M2 by, they're pretty long. What are they? M2 by 12, and then I'm gonna get it through here. Oop. Okay, be careful you don't push out the bearing like I just did. All right, and there's no space or anything. There is a lip on here, so I'm gonna again put a little dab of Loctite on there because I think I might have wipe that off. I'm gonna put it through first, and dab a little Loctite, roll it on my finger, get the excess off, and screw it in. Okay. All right, we're moving it along. Get these grips on. One, two, snap them on the right way. And the right way is having the SAB logo facing the outside, so they snap in like that. Right, SAB logo. All right, put that aside and we'll go to page 14, which will be building up this wash plate.